Hello everyone, it is TooAwesome here with another video. Now, you all have probably heard about the Minecraft Cave and Cliffs update, and it is one of the biggest updates Minecraft has ever received. Since I love this game and I feel like I don't talk about it enough on this channel, I want to talk to you about my thoughts on the new update, what they bring to the table, how they will affect the game, and so on. So, without further ado, let's get right into the video. So, first off, let's talk about the new mountains. The mountain portion of the update strives to improve the mountain generation, and boy, did they do it. The new mountains look amazing and are going to add so much to the world generation and just the aesthetics of the game. Although they are going to be a lot harder to traverse now, and you'll definitely need to plan in advance when climbing them by picking the right sides and so on. Also, I can't wait to see some of the bases and builds utilizing the new mountains, because they look so good. Now, coming with the cliffs portion of the update are goats, and personally I am pretty excited to see another mountain specific mob. They have been seen to jump super high, probably to help them traverse the new mountains, and can be seen hitting other mobs and hitting them quite a distance with a good amount of knockback. These guys will definitely cause some rage because of the knockback and probably will send a few unsuspecting players or mobs down to a sad death. Now, they are said to attack people that they don't like, so that begs the question if you can tame them or somehow get their approval. And make sure to proceed with caution because they attack people if you get too close. Now, netherite armor will help with this since it does have reduced knockback, so that's just another reason why netherite is now the best. Next up, I want to talk about the powdered snow, or as it was called, snowier snow. Now, this block just adds even more depth to the atmosphere and the mountains. You can get stuck in it, so I definitely think that a few players will fall victim to this, but I also feel like it has a lot of potential for traps and other things like that. Maybe you can set it up so if they walk on the powdered snow, they can fall down into some sort of cavern. Honestly, the possibilities are endless, but I can also see this slowing down mountain traversal, so I guess it is a double-edged sword as well. Now, let's move on to the Lush Caves. First of all, I think these are so amazing. It's basically everything I could ask for out of a greener cave. It has amazing new greenery and shrubs, the axolotls spawn here, and overall, they look so cool. This paired with some of the new cave generation will most likely bring us some of the coolest caves we have ever seen in the game. Overall, super hyped, and I think it is a great addition. Now, I know this wasn't something that they brought a lot of attention to, but while showing the Lush Caves, there was also a sort of grass or moss overgrowth that almost looked like carpet. If this is being added into the game, this could be super big, and I know a lot of builders are gonna love it, since you can hide light sources super easily with this. But if this is real, it begs the question if this overgrowth spreads or not, and will we have to maintain certain builds, otherwise the grass will overgrow to certain areas. If that is true, I think that could be a really cool system, just a little tedious, but it was also shown in block form and maybe even could be a form of moss. I mean, now if it takes the moss form, maybe the moss block is like a sort of source block for the other moss and it can't spread too far from the source block. I don't really know. Either way though, it's pretty cool and it will be a pretty cool new feature. Next up is another new thing found in the Lush Caves, the glowberry. Now, not only does it look cool, but it is also a light source as well, and from what they told us during the live, it should be farmable as well, and I'm not sure if this next part is 100% confirmed, but apparently you can eat the berries as well, and if that is true, who knows, they might even add a feature where you can become luminescent for a short period of time, and that could really be helpful with traversing these new caves, and especially help you in the deep dark, you know, since placing torches does kinda send out a vibration. But overall, although the glowberries might seem like a minor add, they do hold a lot of room for growth and new features, plus they are a pretty cool light source and add a good atmosphere for the Lush Cave. Next up is the spore blossom. They seem to be found on the ceilings of Lush Caves and even emit a particle effect. And it does seem like you can gather them, so you could even move it to other places, and this seems to be one of, if not the first controllable particle effects in the game, since I don't know many other items that emit particles like this and allow you to move them. The drip leaf is another new plant that can be found in the Lush Caves. It can generate on water and land. Now, this was another plant that I'm actually super excited for because I want to see the ways it can be used. You can step and walk on the plant, but as you stay too long, the plant will start to tilt downwards, and eventually you will fall through. The plant does reset after a few seconds, but I am super interested to see how this will be used. I could definitely see this used in like parkour and other things like that, so it's just something else to look forward to. Now, next up is a new tree type, the Azalea Tree. If you find one on the surface, make sure to dig down and follow its roots to find a lush cave. Now, I think this is super cool because it adds more landmarks to Minecraft and can help you find what you want instead of wandering around aimlessly hoping. Also, on the topic of roots, I believe we have a new dirt variant, maybe with roots, because it didn't look exactly like the normal dirt underneath, but I digress. Now, it seems that the tree has two different leaf variants, one with flowers and the other with our normal leaves. Now, it seems that the tree is made out of oak, but I'm not entirely sure. That may have just been for the live, since maybe the other type of wood is still in the works. Now, the tree also seems to come in a bush form that can be found in the Lush Caves. It might just be an azalea bush, but we really don't know for now. It could also be a sapling. Now, let's talk about the improved cave generation. So first of all, a big misunderstanding that I keep running across is that all the old style of caves are gone, which is not true. They will still be there on top of the improved cave generation, and I don't mean on top as in literally, I mean on top is, just like an extra feature. Now, the first thing introduced with the new generation is something called local water levels, which means that each cave will have its own water level, and when caves come across each other, it can form some pretty cool generation and naturally generated waterfalls. Also, with this new water level, you can now use boats to traverse these caves, which seems like so much fun. Also, the new generation just seems so much better than the old generation. Like, these caverns look massive, and I love the way they interact. Also, something to note is that the cave generation is completely independent from the biome, which means we can get a massive lush cave cavern, or even a super narrow lush cave tunnel, which makes exploring these new caves even more exciting. And overall, there seems to be like a lot of variables, like so many more variables at play for cave generation, so that should make almost every cave different from the last. Talking about caves, let's talk about a new cave type, the Dripstone Caves. These caves introduce us to the stalagmites and stalactites, which actually are more of your triangular shape instead of Minecraft's usual blocky form. Now, the stalactites, which form on the top of the ceiling and will fall and break if the block above it is removed, acts sort of like how vines work now in game. The stalactites can also give you water if you place a cauldron underneath it to fill it up. Now, this isn't super useful, but still pretty cool. Now, the stalagmites or dripstone seem to deal extra damage if you fall on it, so I can definitely see this used in some pretty efficient mob farms or traps. Now, let's talk about the Deep Dark. Now, the Deep Dark is a new biome found at the bottom of the map that holds many new and nefarious things. Now, this area is almost like a late game area with a very high level boss, the Warden, but I'll talk about that more in a second. But the Minecraft world is only 128 blocks tall, with sea level being at 64 and diamonds found most prominently at layers 5 to 12. Now, this brings up sort of an issue. The Deep Dark is a high level area, but you need to go to basically the same level to find diamonds. Something that isn't even the top tier of the armor, which most likely means that the world is going to be expanded and made even deeper or taller depending on the way you look at it. Now, this isn't confirmed, but it would just make a lot of sense if this did happen. Now, let's talk about the skulk growth. In it comes the skulk sensor, which is basically just wireless redstone. So it reacts to the sounds that players or items make and sends out a redstone signal. You can even block off certain sides to make sure it only receives the sounds from certain directions with wool inclusions. Now, I'm not going to lie, but this is so massive. Like, I can't even begin to comprehend how the redstone community is going to use this, let alone normal people for everyday tasks and traps. Like, This alone has so much potential, and honestly, this has to be one of the biggest things that they have added. Now, I want to touch back onto the skulk growth because it seems to, in a way, corrupt blocks with a slushy goo type thing, and I was wondering if it spreads like I talked about with the moss, where the skulk growth can grow a certain amount of blocks away from the source block, which I believe would probably be the beige looking block with the skulk growth on top, and it almost looks like the stone from the end, so that's pretty interesting. So yeah, maybe the skulk growth can grow and eventually corrupt other blocks as well, but you know, that's just kind of like a little hypothetical almost in a sense. Now next, I want to talk about something that I am super excited for: the Warden. Now, the Warden is found in the Deep Dark. It is Minecraft's first blind mob and reacts to the vibrations given off by players and items, much like the skulk sensor. But this isn't your pushover average mob, oh no. The Warden, according to the Minecraft wiki, has around 42 hearts and has enough power to two-shot a player in full netherite armor. Now, you know how I mentioned that the mob is blind before? Well, if you attack it enough, eventually it will lock onto you and not get distracted by other items. Not only that, but it is seen to have a speed increase when it does so. And citing the Minecraft wiki again, it says that the more the Warden is attacked, the stronger it becomes. And to make things scarier, all light sources will flicker if a Warden is nearby. Honestly, at this point, it just seems like a horror movie, and this is easily the strongest mob in the game, and it comes in at around 4 blocks tall, so good luck fighting this behemoth. Although its blind nature can be used to your advantage to some degree, so it may be in your best interest to bring snowballs or arrows to distract it when you go mining. And to be totally real with you, as much as I love this mob, and I think it will bring a much needed challenge to the game, I can also tell that this will bring some of the best moments and definitely some of the worst. Like, expect some rage compilations because of this thing. Turning over to some more minor details, there seems to be a new stone type, possibly shale since they look similar, but I'm not really sure. Pretty cool addition. I guess it's nothing super major though. Same thing goes with the new candles, and honestly, I'm super surprised not more people were talking about this, because I don't know about you, but I feel like people have been asking for candles for a while now, so I would have expected more of a response to them, but since it doesn't really fit into my building theme, I probably wouldn't use them. But for anyone who builds in like a medieval or magic-like building style, I'm sure you'll be happy with this inclusion. Now, next up, I want to talk about the Amethyst Geodes. Now, these structures act a lot like mob spawners do, as in you can't mine and obtain the blocks. So basically, when you find one, it almost makes you set up around it, like most people do with mob grinders around spawners, and also gives you more of an incentive to go out and explore rather than stay in your little area. These Amethyst Geodes spawn these crystals, which can be used to craft telescopes. Now, personally, I think the addition of the telescope is pretty cool. I do know people who have Optifine, and it allows them to zoom in, but that is a mod, and for someone who plays on Bedrock on PS4, this update is pretty cool for me. Although I'm not sure how I feel about the rim that you get when you zoom in. Overall, it's pretty good, and I would like to see them add the telescope to the loot pool of sunken ships and treasure chests, because I feel like that would fit in so well. But hopefully we get new uses for crystals in the future, because right now I feel like the uses are a little lacking. Now, next up is something that the community has wanted for a while: a new ore. Copper will be included in this update, and it spawns a little differently than the other ores. Most ores spawn in a little blob or chunk, but copper ore spawns in veins, meaning if you find a little bit here, you may want to keep digging in search of the full vein. And in the video, copper was shown to have many block variants, including stairs, slabs, and full blocks. Now, what is interesting about copper blocks is that they actually age over time into this greenish blue color, which I thought was super cool because it can show a little bit of the history of your world, although I do wish it aged a bit slower. Copper is also useful in the creation of the lightning rod. Now, the lightning rod attracts lightning strikes from hitting other blocks in a specific area. So say you have a wooden house and it was to be struck by lightning. If you had a lightning rod placed, it would instead hit the rod instead of the building, which I think is very useful because I do have a few builds made out of wood and I feel like it would be a shame if they were to be struck and burned down. Although yet again, I wish copper had more uses. Like, it seems to be more of a building material, which I'm fine with, and I obviously don't want them to add another tier of armor that will basically be useless, but I feel like they could work out some properties or some sort of system where copper has its own like unique property or thing. I don't really know the details, but after all this time, a new ore is added and it's kind of not the most useful. No hate or anything, I just expected a little bit more from a new ore. Next up, I want to talk about one of my favorite new things coming from this update: the bundles. The bundles act as a backpack or a portable chest of sorts and can hold up to a stack of items or 64 items. Now, what is cool about this is, say that you have 64 different types of blocks that you want to take with you. You can technically do that with the bundle as long as the total amount of items is equal to 64. Now, this can be super useful for exploration because, at least with me, sometimes when I go exploring, I'll find cool flowers I want, but then there are also some iron ingots that I found from a sunken ship, and so on, until my inventory is so full that I need to start discarding items. I'm glad that the mountains won, but the reason I voted for the swamp last year was because of this very issue and how the chest boat would have helped, so I'm very glad that they are adding this. Also, a few misconceptions, because if you think about it, the backpack's use is to hold small amounts of multiple items, basically eliminating the spaces in inventory used for holding, say, 1 flower or 2 string. And since it can only go up to 64 items, it's not really expanding your inventory, just helping you sort it better. And it isn't going to make the shulker box useless because the shulker box is an extension of the inventory, while the bundle is just to help organize it a bit better. Honestly, I'm super excited for the bundles, and I can definitely see myself using these on every exploration trip. Now, next up is something that I don't see many people talking about and should definitely get more recognition. They are adding a new archaeology system to the game. Now, it wasn't made abundantly clear, but you can use this new brush to dig into gravel and dirt to find artifacts. But I'm not sure if it is only at the new excavation sites or all dirt blocks and all gravel blocks can be affected, because if it is the latter and we are able to use this on all dirt and gravel, that would be pretty crazy and a game-breaking addition. Because in the video, we saw the person find a diamond and emerald block. So this may be really good early game and could be a very useful tool, and may even give the players a different way to find ores instead of mining, which I think is really great because although Minecraft basically has limitless things to build, in survival the playstyles can be pretty limited, and there are always certain things and paths that you have to take to beat the game. But this new system allows you to branch off and play in a style that hasn't really been seen before. Also, really minor point, but while breaking the gravel and dirt, there were different levels to the destruction of uncovering. Maybe these levels can be left there and we can add like slopes and more of a gradual climb to hills. Hopefully what I said just made sense, but just think of it as a half slab, but instead of like half, it is divided into like more than that. I don't know if that makes any sense, but if that's true, it can drastically change landscapes and will give builders like way more hands-on approach to building like landscapes and hills and that sort of thing. Also, I mentioned the brush earlier, but I wonder if it will be if it will be a craftable item, maybe with a feather and a stick, or is it an item that can only be found at these excavation sites? Now, these excavation sites are basically a new structure and are exactly what they sound like. They look pretty cool, and it will be interesting if you stumble across one in your world. You can also find these ceramic shards. They all have their own little design, and you can reconstruct them onto a clay plot and make your own design. It's a pretty cool idea. I just don't see many people using this unless they give the pots, more of a use. Now let's move on and talk about a new mob that will be found in the Lush Caves, the Axolotl. Now I know everyone is super excited for this mob. I also think it's really cool that they added another endangered animal to Minecraft to spread awareness, so I support them in that. They come in 3 different colors: albino, brown, and green. Now you are able to carry an axolotl in a bucket, which is actually super useful for moving them around and transporting them to a different place. They also mention a way to tame them, although they didn't really explain how. I believe they are tamed when you pick them up in a bucket, but it isn't 100% confirmed. But they are also seen attacking guardians and the elder guardians, so I think they can be helpful if you are looking to conquer an ocean monument. They also attack fish, so I'm guessing they just attack any mob that lives or resides in the water, but that isn't 100% confirmed either. But the super cool thing about the axolotls is that when it is attacked or it takes damage, it plays dead. Now when it plays dead, no mob will attack them, so this gives them time to regenerate their health and get ready to jump back into the fight. And they are also said to be able to heal you if you cooperate well with them. Now I'm not sure exactly what that means or entails, but it seems to be hinting that we will have to take care of this mob for it to heal us. Overall, super excited for this mob though. Talking about mobs, let's finally talk about the mob vote. So as most of you know, the glow squid won. Now personally, I didn't vote, but my favorite out of the 3 was the glow squid. I just thought it fit my building aesthetic the most, and I could maybe use it in some of my builds. So far, we don't know too much about it, although it itself doesn't give off light, which is a little disappointing, but it will spawn in the depths of the ocean and most likely in some of the caves. Now, its drops haven't been determined yet, but hopefully they will implement some sort of light emitting ink, or maybe even a new light source. Maybe even one that we'll be able to use underwater. Also, in its promotional video, it is shown to have an infatuation effect where you would get almost hypnotized by looking at it. So if they added something like that to the game, or make it so that your sensitivity is slowed if you look at it, I think that would be pretty cool. But we will just have to wait and see what Mojang plans to do. I know a lot of people wanted the Moo Bloom, and I understand why, but I don't understand why people are getting so up in arms about it. And no, it isn't the Phantom all over again, because unlike the Phantom, it doesn't implement game-breaking mechanics. And we got such a great update, and it kind of sucks that a lot of people were just harping on the fact that a mob they liked didn't get into the game. Because honestly, this update is amazing. They are going to be adding so much stuff that it almost feels like a mod, which is fine. It's just that it will probably take some getting used to. And don't forget, we got the cave update that we've been asking for years. So guys, just try to focus on the positives, because this is going to be one of the biggest updates Minecraft has ever gotten, and I personally am just super excited. But I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any feedback, feel free to leave it in the comments below. But as always guys, stay awesome. TooAwesome. Thanks for watching.